Comics of 100 Years Ago, May 15th, 1926. It's a new above-the-title cartoon called Mistakes Will Happen, period. We see two people in pantomime costumes. The woman says, "Remember, Anchovis, this is April 1st. Pick thou up no purse this day, for I'll have no fool according me." Anchovis says, "A shame to thee, Ammonia, my dove, that thee should think me so lacking in intelligence that I should this day play the fool and pick up a purse. Men are such saps," she says with her hands on her hips. And he immediately goes and finds a purse beside a fence, which has a very crazy cat mesa behind it. He picks the purse up, and a group of four, all wearing feathered caps, says, "Ha ha, fool thou, har har har." Yet inside the purse is a long string of pearls, and all of the gawkers have question marks above their heads. To a shop he goes with the pearls and says, "I ask you, what is it worth?" "A fortune, 'tis worthy of a queen." And so he gives it to Ammonia, who says, "Oh, thou wisest of men, thou cleverest of suitors." "Sure," he says, winking at the camera. "Us husbands." Ambi is again hanging on the street corner as the doc approaches him and says, "Can't stop a second, Ambi. Gotta get home quick. The wife's built a lamb stew, and I'm all primed and set for the attack. Let me through, boy, let me through." "Lamb stew, Doc?" "Lamb stew? My pet food." As Doc walks away, Ambi says, "I said I love lamb stew, Doc. There will also be dumplings, Ambi." Ambi stuffs his hands in his pockets and says, "Just tramples ruthlessly upon my affections. He wasn't that way before he got married, consarn. There was a time when you just think a wish, and there was Doc, like a fairy aunt, handing it to you. But now..." The judge walks past and says, "Step aside, Ambrose. Don't impede me. The supper table at home is groaning under its burden of lamb stew, and I must need speed." Ambi rubs his hands and says, "Ah, Judge, if you only knew the deep reverence I have for lamb stew." The judge walks away, and Ambi says, "I said I just idolized lamb stew, Judge. I... Dumplings too, Ambi. Yes, sir." Ambi smokes his cigar with his hands in his pockets, saying, "And yet, I've seen the day when he'd cry his eyes out just because he couldn't split a penny with a pal. Now here I am with a hysterical yen for lamb stew, and he doesn't even ask me how my agony is getting on." The colonel approaches, also smoking. He says, "I don't suppose, Ambi, that it would interest a single gentleman like you to know that I am about to dine on lamb stew tonight, fashioned by the hands of my good wife." Ambi clasps his hands together and says, "Oh, Colonel, I'd almost get married for a lamb stew right now." But the colonel walks away, and Ambi says, "That's how much I crave lamb stew, you hear, Colonel? And with dumplings too, Ambi." Again, he shoves his hands in his pockets and says, "And to think that he used to be the soul of generosity. Share it with a pal was his motto. Dang nabbit, it does something to a fella. Yeah, it sure does." "Let's eat, Ambi," says Jake, who approaches. "All right, Jake," says Ambi. The two sit at a restaurant table as the waiter looks over their shoulders. The waiter says, "What a good lamb stew tonight. Gentlemen's dumplings. We too, very nice." Jake says, "Lamb stew, no, give me eggs." Ambi has a question mark appear above his head as he looks at the menu. The waiter says, "Eggs, how? Fried," says Jake. "Give me the same," says Ambi.